I'd like to call the City of Elkhorn Plan Commission Thursday, November 2nd, 6 o'clock meeting to order. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Meinel,
Here.
Geisler,
Here.
Boardman,
Here.
Stacko,
Here.
Hunter,
Here.
Watke,
Here.
Lechner.
Here. Next, we have to approve the minutes of the October 5th, 2023 meeting. They were all in your packet.
Motion to approve?
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions, changes, or discussion on the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed on October 5th, 2023 minutes. Next, we have Plan Commission items. Tonight, we have Lee Lovall, applicant, On Time Towing LLC Company, 544 South Lincoln Street, tax key YP 00030. We have a rezone discussion and recommendation and a conditional use permit discussion and recommendation. I know this did come through Plan Commission before and was passed on to Council. Council did send it back to Plan Commission because they had a couple questions they wanted. One was they wanted the applicant here, which I think he is here tonight. And the second one is they wanted to hear if any of the residents had any issues with it. So, Allison, do you have anything to add about the residents? I do have a letter that I will read in from one of the residents, but I was going to have Allison first. Is she in there, Matt?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for asking. Pertaining to the residents that surround the property, other than the letter that I received from the neighbor on the back side of the property, I have not received anything else. No communication from anyone in that area. I don't know if there is anyone in the audience. If you want to take the time to allow public comment, it's up to you.
Okay. Is there any residents close to that vicinity in the audience?
I'm a business owner.
In that area? Yeah, I'd let you come up and talk. If you're right in that direct area.
Yeah, right across the street. I spoke, wait till I come up.
Yep. If state your name and address so too in business.
Eric Jones. I own the bus company at 511 and 525 South Lincoln and 425 South Lincoln Street. Basically just to the north and on the other side of the road. I spoke the last time about this. I think Elkhorn has a lot of great places for a tow company. South Lincoln Street, I don't know how many of you guys are aware of this, but South Lincoln Street, at least it was 4 years ago when I worked with Joel, is the most heavily trafficked street in the city of Elkhorn. When I grew up in Elkhorn, that street had nothing. There was no freeway in 1968 when my dad first purchased the first 2 acres there until the freeway came in. In the last, 5 years, probably longer now, we have all the development on the south side of the freeway with Love's and the hotel and the doctor's clinic and et cetera. South Lincoln Street is a big city street now in Elkhorn anyhow. Now we have $100+ million development that the city has approved just across the street from 544, next door to me, south of me. That's going to bring in retail. It's going to bring in probably potentially another gas station, probably going to be, 400 or 500 apartments, I think, located behind there. So it's even going to get more congested and busier, and it's becoming more of a window into Elkhorn than even North Wisconsin Street is, as far as people coming off from Lake Geneva, Delavan, Williams Bay, and other locations to come into Elkhorn. A lot of people come in on Lincoln Street, Highway 67. What do we want to present as a city? Do you want I don't think you want the bus company there. Probably, I'm 60 years old. It's probably not going to be there that much longer. And who knows what's going to come in next. There's going to be retail, obviously, on the front of 67. More upscale apartments are there. And once you approve something or once we have something, it's pretty tough to let it go or for it to disappear. That if we approve a tow company on South Lincoln Street at that location, it could be there forever. I don't have any skin in the game as a tow company. I do not operate a tow company. I do business with tow companies across the country when I buy and sell trucks, but I don't own one, and I want to make that clear that I don't have any affiliation with one. I just worry that it's the wrong location. Now, if it does get approved, and that's up to the planning commission and city council. Let's at least get it to look good. That building is, for as long as I can remember, for 30, 40 years, hasn't changed. I think that tire sitting on the front of the building has been there for about 50 years. I don't quite understand how all those junk vehicles have been parked behind that building for the last 20 years. I don't understand how a friend of mine had to come to my business every day for 10 years to use the bathroom because there hasn't been any sewer when they ran their business out of that. Now, I know the council is requesting or demanding or whatever to have sewer and water run in there. But let's get it's called planning commission. Let's get a plan of what this building's gonna look like. What are you gonna do to the facade of the building? How's it going to look better? What's the landscaping plan? What kind of fence are we putting in? Is it a chain link fence? Is it a wood fence? Is it a spiked fence? What is it? What's the lighting plan? If we are gonna have a tow company there, go down to Illinois and I'll take some pictures and send you. There's some beautiful buildings for tow companies. But let's not drop the ball just to prove something, put up a chain link fence or an ugly brown fence or something, I don't know. But if he has plans, that's great, and I hope he does. And I hope that, if we approve it, that it's like, wow, that's a nice looking, it almost looks like a retail building. And if he ever gets out of the tow business, somebody retail can come in there. But at the way it sits right now, as a brick building with no, aesthetics that make the building look good, I don't see why that benefits Elkhorn. I don't see how it makes it better. I would like to see the plan, which I hadn't seen, and apparently has not been presented yet. Maybe he's got it tonight, about how it's going to look. How's that going to fit in with brand new retail on the other side of the street that's going to be built, creating millions of dollars of tax base? So that's my concern. I don't have any skin in the game. I'm not going to be here forever. I'm assuming I might be up here 5 years from now 10 years maybe, when I sell my property and a new business comes in there and decides what they want to do. So that's all I needed to say. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Eric. I do have a resident that lives right behind it, I guess, Laura Anderson. And her letter that she sent in, she couldn't be here tonight because she did have eye surgery today, so she's unable to attend the meeting. But to all concerned parties, my name is Laura Breber Anderson. I've resided at 525 South Wisconsin Street for 30 plus years. I fully support Lee Lovall bringing more local business to the city of Elkhorn. As myself, I'm a local business owner. I've grown up with my family's business, Breber's Music in Elkhorn. I do have a couple of concerns I'd like to communicate in there as follows. How will we cut down on noise with this being a 24-hour towing company? My suggestion would be a fence and possible some landscaping or decorative trees. Will there be vehicle storage on our property for more than 90 days? I worry that this will bring unwanted pests or rodents. I experienced this in the past with bad renters years ago. How might we prevent this from occurring? This is a towing company, not a junkyard or parts place, correct? I fully support Lee and his towing company coming to Elkhorn, but also would like to make sure all communication is occurring between all involved. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter, Laura Breber Anderson. So I just wanted to read that into record before we move on. Next, I'd like to ask the applicant, Lee, if you could come up and kind of go over what you got and what your plans are and everything.
You want to just pass it around? Sorry, I wasn't able to be at the September meeting. We had already pre-bought tickets and had a family situation out of the country, so we were all out of the country at that time. So I handed Mr. Hunter pictures of our Whitewater location. All of these concerns that are being brought up by people were brought up when we opened Whitewater. It's basically tit for tat, except for the electrical substation next door. It's pretty much the exact same setup as Elkhorn. It's on a main drag going through Whitewater. Granted, it may not be as busy as Lincoln Street, but it is the main street going through Whitewater. We are surrounded both next door, behind us, and across the street with residential. To the east side of us is another commercial property. Actually, it's commercial for the rest of the block. But right next door, we have, I believe it's 7 houses along the side of our property. And we have roughly 5 to 6 houses across the street. Everybody was concerned when we came in that we were a 24-hour operation. We do tow for 5 different police agencies right now, and we are the top towing company for private property tows in Whitewater. We tow for over 1,000 addresses in Whitewater. Um, we do pretty much all of the student housing enforcement, all of the big commercial properties, pretty much we do all of their parking enforcement. We start towing during the week when we're doing residential enforcement at 4 a.m. Everybody was all up in arms about that there was going to be trucks in and out at 4 a.m. We have been operating that facility for 2.5 years. You can contact City of Whitewater Police Department. There has been 0 noise complaints. All of the neighbors love us. We plow their sidewalks for them. We have towed many of their cars for them. We've sold them cars. We've rented them cars. There's not been any issues as far as noise complaints. The only complaints we get are we do parking enforcement. So people are breaking the law or they're breaking rules that they signed a lease that they would agree to. We enforce the parking. So any complaints that we get, it's because somebody's car got towed and they didn't think it should have been towed. We also are a strong supporter of the community. We were the lead operation for bringing fireworks to National Night Out at the Elkhorn Fairgrounds this year. The National Night Out Committee had been wanting to do fireworks for years and years. They were going to put it off for another couple of years. We contacted 4 other tow companies in Walworth County that we work with. Each one of us put in a fair, sizable amount of money, and we brought fireworks to the community. As far as Whitewater, we donate money to the Whitewater Police Department. We help them buy their drone that they wanted to get. We support numerous community fundraising things. The Whitewater Co-op Grocery, we bought two business accounts and a personal account to help support that and bring a grocery store to Whitewater, because as big as Whitewater is with the university, they do not have a grocery store other than Walmart. Next year, we're going to have 2. We're going to have I can't remember what the... Aldi's, there you go. We're going to have Aldi's, and they're supposed to break ground on the co-op next year. So we are a strong supporter of the community. We run a clean operation, as you'll see from our pictures of our current facility in Whitewater. The trucks that we run are late model equipment. The diesel trucks that we have are California emissions certified, so they're quiet diesels. That was one of Lynn's concerns. Lynn called me. We had a couple different pretty lengthy conversations. Her main concern was the property that is directly next door to her house. Apparently there's a trucking company in there. It used to be a city lot. She said that the drivers will pull in there and leave their trucks idle all night long, literally right next to her house. I assured her that, number one, our trucks, the longest they'll idle for is 3 minutes, then they shut themselves off. The computer automatically shuts them off. That's our Whitewater facility. As you can see, it's clean, it's well maintained, it's surrounded by residential property and across the street. Her other concern was apparently in the past they had some renters in the building and there was a bunch of junk cars out and back, and she started getting woodchucks that were invading her yard. As I stated, we primarily tow for police agencies and for private property, um, commercial and private property owners. They have a donut car. Uh, so the vehicles that we tow in usually are picked up the same day. If it was towed off of private property, the people want their cars back right away. They come in, they pay the fee, they get their permit on them, and they pick their car up. As far as for the police agencies, the longest we would sit on a car would be 90 days. Sometimes, especially with like the sheriff's department, they get abandoned cars on the highway, and we have to pick them up, get them off the highway, and if the value exceeds, I don't remember the amount right now. I want to say it's $1,000. If the vehicle exceeds $1,000, we legally by law have to hold that vehicle for 90 days before we can dispose of it. Insurance vehicles are usually picked up within 5 to 10 days. Sometimes we don't even get them off the truck, and the insurance companies are calling, wanting to know when they can pick them up. And trying to think if there was anything else. So this has been a long process. I've been working with Allison and her office, bugging the heck out of her for, I think, roughly 5 months. About multiple different properties. We had looked at several different properties. At one point, we were looking at building a brand new facility right here in the industrial park. Through all of our conversation, this is the property that fits for Elkhorn. There's already commercial property across the street that we heard from. Lynn is very supportive of us. And we're here because whether you guys realize it or not, City Elkhorn needs us. You have one great towing company right outside of town. AM Towing is awesome. They are owned by an excellent family. They're managed by an excellent guy. But they primarily do heavy duty and medium duty tows. That, as far as I'm aware, there is nobody doing private property tows and enforcement in the city of Elkhorn. We get calls all the time from property owners or management companies wanting us to come over here and start doing property or parking enforcement in the city of Elkhorn. We have not done that to this point because I don't think it's fair, especially when you're dealing with low-income people, to come over here, take a vehicle from somebody because it was illegally parked or didn't have a parking permit on it, haul the car back to Whitewater, and expect them to be able to get a ride to Whitewater to pay for their car and pick it back up. So we have not really tried to get business in Elkhorn. I've turned a lot of that away. I've tried offering it to AM Towing. I send them probably 8 to 12 calls a week. To my knowledge, they have not done anything. I don't think they want anything to do with that type of towing. So that's why we're trying to open a place in Elkhorn. It's not because I'm bored and I have nothing to do. I'm 55 years old. I have 4 kids still at home, all under the age of 13. I have another son who's 32 years old and a grandson. I did treatment foster care for several different counties for high-risk teenagers for 17 years. I took the hardest kids that were out there. They were all being released from jail or residential facilities. So I have a lot going on in my life. I'm not here because I'm bored. I'm here because the city needs me. And people are calling and asking us to come here. And after 5 months of searching, this is the property that we came up with. I do understand, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. I do understand from my conversation with Allison yesterday that there is an issue with changing the zoning of the back part of the property from residential to M1. Our conversation basically is that I'm fine with leaving the back part of the property at R1 as long as we can put a 8 to 10-foot fence around the property and use that as our landscaping points and, leave it grass and put trees and whatever in there. I'm not anticipating that there will be a ton of cars here. I would think the maximum that we may have during a big snowfall or something like that would be maybe 20 cars. And I would anticipate that at least half of them would be gone within 24 to 48 hours. So I don't need the whole property to be blacktopped or concrete. As far as our plans for the property, I mean, it's an old building. Um, I disagree with what was said earlier that it hasn't changed. When Chris Meisner bought the property, there literally was a guy living in a trailer behind the building. I understand that it's going to need water and sewer brought to it and a bathroom put in it. I am asking for up to 2 years to be able to do that, mainly because number one, we're going into winter. Number two, every contractor that I've contacted since September when we got this first meeting scheduled, and Allison told me that that was a concern, every contractor is booked at least a year to 2 years out. So trying to get somebody to come out there and do the work that's going to be need to be done, especially since we have to cross Lincoln Avenue to connect to, I think it's the water line. It's going to take time to get the people lined up to do that. It's not like I can go out and rent an excavator and tear up Lincoln Avenue. There's going to be permits involved. People are going to have to be licensed to do the work that's required to do that. And, to expect me to buy a property and not do anything with it for a year to 2 years is just not realistic. So what I'm asking for is to be able to get approved to operate the towing yard out of there, put the 8 or 10-foot fence up around the back part of the property, and at that point be allowed to do the towing out of there. We're not going to have an office there. We're not going to have customers there. Down the road, we would like to move, we also do rental cars. I would like to move our rental car operation over here or open an additional rental car operation. And to be able to do that, clearly we're going to have an office and a bathroom there. I talked to Allison about that, and she said, clearly that could not happen until the bathroom and the office were there. So that's basically my spiel in a nutshell. I'm open to any questions that you guys may have or concerns.
Landry?
Are all your cars operational that'd be parked there, or are some
Uh,
crash cars
Yeah, there will be wrecks there for sure. Yeah.
so they can leak oil, they can leak antifreeze, whatever?
That was another big concern when we opened Whitewater. 99% of the time when we get to an accident scene, anything the vehicle is going to leak, the majority of it is already leaked out. We do have spill containment that we use all the time. We have buckets that we can put under stuff or catch pans to put under things if it continues to leak. But the majority of the damage has already been done at the accident scene. The fire department's already dealt with it. We have already dealt with it. We carry oil dry and brooms and shovels on our trucks. So pretty much all of that has already been contained and dealt with at the accident scene.
And what's the average time a wrecked car stays in your lot?
Like I said, depending on the insurance company, anywhere from 2 days to 10 days typically. Some insurance companies are faster than others, so.
So Allison, and the last time we were here, did we talk about blacktopping the whole thing, or was it just gonna be impervious surface?
We had talked about blacktopping the area, and I believe that was listed as one of the conditions that made its way to the Common Council. Um, so I believe it was blacktopping the area, no gravel, um, putting in the fence around the perimeter, and then obviously the water and sewer hookup as well was one of the conditions that was listed.
So if our conditional use goes out a year before we, you start sending letters or whatever, or checking, so would this sewer and water have to be done within that year? If we approve this? I mean, can we put it out 2 years? That's a year beyond the conditional use, timeframe that we have?
So I believe you can set whatever conditions you would like.
Yeah,
I would
sorry.
also defer to legal counsel as well.
Yeah, the conditional use would have to be utilized within a year, so he would have to start using it. But you could put in a timeline that would be longer than that window. If he didn't do it within the year, though, then effectively the conditional use would, if he didn't do anything within a year, the conditional use would expire. But if he started utilizing it, then that effectively activates the conditional use, allows him to continue doing it. And then it becomes a question of whatever duration you would put with respect to the sewer and water and plumbing. I mean, well, we've got a couple of issues we can talk about. Allison, maybe if you want to kind of bring us all up to speed on the zoning
Yeah.
issues, or you want me to?
Sure. Yeah. I'll start. And then I'll kind of loop you in, Chris. That will be helpful. So just to kind of retouch, I want to backtrack a bit. Lee had mentioned that I had contacted him to talk about the back portion of the property that's currently zoned single family. So in further research, after the Common Council sent the item back to the Plan Commission for further review, after kind of going through our ordinances with a fine tooth comb, someone from legal counsel did find one minor issue, and that issue is that we have a lot width requirement or length requirement. It's width, correct, Chris?
Yes, Allison.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. So we have a lot with requirement in the M1 district, which is 100 feet. And this parcel altogether is not meeting that. So the question is, should it have ever been zoned to M1 in the first place? I'm not sure because we can't find the historical on it and how that happened and how the zoning was split at one time. We can't seem to find the history there, why some of it was zoned M1 and some single family. But the fact of the matter is that the way that our current ordinance is written, that parcel is not meeting the requirement of the width. And therefore, if we do rezone the property to M1 to make it consistent, the lot is now consistently zoned. However, it makes the lot almost more non-conforming because it's not meeting a requirement of our current ordinance. So I did have that discussion with the applicant that if we went to rezone that, it may make the parcel more non-conforming, which is not recommended by the city at this time. So that's just one thing we discussed. And as the applicant stated, even with leaving that as single family, he's still comfortable to move forward. And he's mentioned that he would use that as green space, leave it alone. Essentially, you couldn't do anything with it. It's not buildable. You couldn't put a structure on it. You couldn't build a single family home on it. So it would be used as, maybe a landscaping buffer, green space. It could still be fenced in because it is a portion of the property, but nothing could go on that. So that's one thing that I talked about with Chris, who's there tonight, and I'll just make sure he doesn't have anything to add.
Yeah, no, that's correct. Essentially, because the property itself doesn't conform to the current M1 standards, we really couldn't rezone that back portion to M1, at least short of a variance, which you'd have to apply for. So we really, at this point, with respect to the rezone portion, there's really not much that we can do. Now, it sounds like the applicant's comfortable foregoing that part essentially and using that as green space, so I think that's an option. And then it just becomes a question of the conditional use with respect to the front portion, what those conditions would be.
So at this time, for clarity, for the plan commission, the recommendation from staff would change given the new information that was found in our current ordinance. I would recommend that the rezone be denied at this time because it would make the parcel more non-conforming than it already is. However, with that being said, the front portion of the property is zoned M1, and there's nothing we can do about that. If a business or a use is a permitted use within the M1 district, any prospective buyer or owner of that property can utilize it as M1 in the front portion of the property, and if the business is permitted, they can use it as M1.
My question is, if it's not rezoned, does the conditional use permit just automatically die?
No, so what would happen was the back portion would not be rezoned because the zoning wouldn't allow it. So essentially, it would remain what it is now, which is a parcel with split zoning. So the front would be M1 with a conditional use that you may or may not grant with the council's ultimate blessing. The back portion would remain residential. That's just the way it is. So it could be used for buffer. It could be fenced in. It could be screened in, and that's actually one of the buffering is one of the things that I've heard discussed a lot tonight in terms of visual buffers and noises and lights and that type of thing. So I think it would actually be helpful for the neighboring properties to have that as a green space essentially. So the idea is that there's two items on the agenda tonight, right? One would be the rezoning itself, and based on the information that we found in terms of the requirements of M1, we don't think that can go ahead. So we would recommend that you deny the rezone of the back portion. And then the second item is going to be the conditional use piece of it. And we've heard some discussion tonight about conditions that we think ought to be on there, and even the applicant's indicated some things that he is prepared to live with. So what we would recommend is that we, in light of this new information, we work with Allison and we pull a listing of conditions that would be applicable to a property like this for the use that he's proposing. And then we bring those back, and then you have a formal listing of conditions that you can work off of instead of having to try to do this on the fly, essentially, where we come up with things tonight and maybe they make it in the minutes, maybe they don't. We prefer to write it all up and bring it back at your next meeting, which I think is a couple weeks, maybe?
2 weeks, 16th.
Yeah, and then you'll actually have a listing that you can look at.
But we could, Plan Commission, you have any other question about the rezone? Because we could
do that.
we could do that because they are recommending to deny that, and the applicant is,
My concern is that it's been rezoned been that zone for many, many years. And probably 2 years ago, the city adopted a 30-year plan. And that was updated, and that was M1 in front and residential in the back. And the city didn't catch it at that time or change it, left it, for some reason, left it the way it is. And as Allison just said, you can't rezone it to M1 on the back because
correct.
it's a 100-foot setback to residential property. So therefore, I would move to deny a rezone of this parcel of property at this time.
I have a question before we.
Well, I have to have a second before now, so do I have
Thought we
a,
were,
do I have a second? Because once we have a motion, I have to have a second.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second, now we can discuss again.
Board, would it be better for us to withdraw as opposed to deny the recommendation to rezone?
Well, the withdrawal is up to the applicant. sorry.
Yeah.
The withdraw part is up to the applicant. We can't,
Our
Force his
position
hand.
is to deny it or approve it.
if it's denied, it doesn't keep him from being able to come back again with a new application.
And fee,
What's that?
and fee.
And fee, yep.
But I think, as you can see, the applicant is fine with this rezone denied, which he stated already.
Just thinking it might be easier to withdraw ours instead, but if we can't.
No, we can't withdraw. It'd have to be the applicant, it'd have to be withdrawing.
I think what he's, may I?
Yeah.
I think what he's saying is, rather than have a denial,
Mhm.
might be better for you if you
Right.
asked the plan commission to withdraw it.
Yeah, we can withdraw the request for the rezone of the R1 property. That's fine.
So you're formally asking the
Sure.
plan commission to withdraw that?
I formally asked for that, yes.
Okay, so now it's no longer before the body.
Correct. Okay.
So the motion
So I can withdraw the motion.
dies.
The motion dies.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Motion and second both dies.
My question, may I?
Yeah.
My question is, we've got a property that's got this split zoning situation, and I think it's in everybody's interest, especially the cities, to correct that. I don't know how to correct it because the residential doesn't work, and this, we can't put them together like is being proposed. So I would ask, Allison, Chris, and whoever, work on solving that incongruity, because that would make life easier for the city in the future.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point, and it's not uncommon that properties have split zoning, but usually it's a different kind of scenario. This is kind of an odd one, and I almost wonder, we talked to the office, I almost wonder if, because this is an area that your comp plan contemplates light industrial and buffering and whatnot, I almost wonder if when it was rezoned, they made the conscious decision to leave the back part residential to build in a buffer. That's total speculation. You could apply for a variance theoretically that would allow you potentially to get the rezone. There's standards for variance though, and I can't tell you that you necessarily get that.
Be tough.
My understanding from talking to the current property owner was that at one time, the city had planned to put an alley behind all of those residential houses. And for whatever reason, at some point, the alley was abandoned and people bought those lots because they were never going to put an alley in there.
That's interesting. Yeah, so we can kick you around and try to come up with a solution to kind of clean up this lot a little bit in terms of the zoning piece of it.
The other question I had is, you clearly aren't looking to use a building at this particular point in time.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of discussion and feeling about fixing up the building. Did you have a timeline for that?
Well, like I said, I'm asking for up to 2 years to be able to get the right people in place, get the permits pulled to do what we need to do to go through Lincoln Avenue or Lincoln Street. It's going to take time to get the right people on board to do all that and get the permits. We're looking, for up to 2 years. I would like to be able to move my rental car operation over here within that 2-year time.
I have a question.
If I could just point out one item is that the existing building is quite old, and it's not very aesthetically pleasing. I think probably all of us have driven by it a time or two. And so it's like this shop building. It's a concrete block building. It's just a square. And so it's not aesthetically pleasing. However, there are no active code violations. So if you take a look at the property as it sits is in full compliance with our property maintenance code at this time. It's painted, it's consistent color, there's no chipping paint, there's no deterioration, it's weather tight, it's weatherproof, and it is to full code. So there could be several different items that the prospective property owner does to kind of beautify the area, I guess. But in my opinion, without tearing that building down and rebuilding, I don't know how much prettier you could make it, but maybe landscaping, that sort of thing could help improve the area overall.
Well, I think you'd have to come back with a plan for that, but when we first started this, the whole idea of the back is that that's where he was gonna put the vehicles, so we wouldn't have a wrecked vehicle or one that's smashed, or even just vehicles sitting out in front there. The whole idea was that back lot is where all the vehicles, no matter what they were.
And the vehicles will not sit out front.
Were they
They
gonna
will
fir-
not.
Yeah, if you could go back to that picture you had of my property in Whitewater.
Well, what
No,
about this, I'm concerned about here.
Yeah,
Where would
that's
your
a-
vehicles be if the back lot is residential?
So,
You
The
put-
whole
um,
the whole back lot
Ken-
is not residential. Only a quarter of the whole property is zoned residential. So if you can throw that one picture back up of my property in Whitewater, I'll touch on what you're saying.
I just, real quick, just for this parcel here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the area that's residential, correct?
Yep. All that grassed area is the residential part that we're talking about that we were asking for the rezone on.
So that means from potentially this green line to the back of the building is where you would store vehicles, I think?
So actually, our plan would be to run a fence across basically the front of the building on both sides to the lot line. And then basically that whole gravel area from the front of the building back would be fenced in. When they get the water line ran to the building and the sewer ran to the building, then the front part would either be blacktopped or concrete, whatever. And then it would be striped and everything for parking out in front. There would never be any impounded or wrecked vehicles out in front. Everything would be behind the fence. And then if you go back to the Whitewater picture,
Can you give me that address again? 550?
515 East Milwaukee Street.
Would there be a gate at that fence then?
Yes. To the right side of the building. There you go. No, yeah, there you go. So where that fence is right now, that's our impound area. There are wrecked cars behind there. There's stuff that's rolled over. I mean, it's ugly. There's stuff behind that fence. And even when we impound vehicles from private property, people show up there to pick their car up. They think they're at the wrong place because they can't find their car. It's literally feet from them behind the fence. So
The other thing is having our, the substation is right there for the power. And you know how electric cars are and fires now.
yeah.
I don't know if the fire chief had his 2 cents in or not, but they'd have a hell of a time getting back there to put a fire out, but no matter what it was, but.
Yeah, so I actually just went through training 2 weeks ago in Beloit, where this whole electric car thing is like, I mean, it's changing all the time. So the current actually even earlier this year, they were saying that submerging the battery packs in water was the way to go. Well, now they're not saying that. They're saying that if a vehicle is in an accident where the battery pack has been damaged, that the fire department, the protocol is supposed to be the fire department keeps dousing water on the vehicle until they take one of those laser thermometers and shoot it at the vehicle and the battery pack is cooled to 175 degrees or less. At that point, the vehicle is considered to be safe. It's not in thermal runaway, and the vehicle should be safe. So that is something that's changing constantly. We are trying to stay on top of that, of what everybody is recommending. There are fire blankets you can put over the cars to contain if it would start on fire, or you can put up a concrete barrier to put the car in.
I think Allison had a good idea, as we're looking at the pictures, that if you still want to do this without the rezone, that you could come back with a plan and some drawings of what that would look like
Mhm.
when you when you start your business there, not 2 years from now. And I don't know, I understand, I think I understand, your story about it would take 2 years to get somebody to hook it up. But I'm not in favor of any business. I don't care what you want to run there, without sewer and water.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah, and, the building's been there for however long with no sewer and water. And the reason that we're not, trying to open a business there right away with an office and everything is because there's not sewer and water there. We don't necessarily need the building. We need the property to be able to store the cars at. So
So you wouldn't have any employees in the building?
there would never be an employee in the building.
So if there's nobody there, when you're not there, are those gates closed and locked?
Yes.
So is it
And
just the bar that, like in your whitewater picture,
Mhm.
I mean, anybody can hop over, kids can hop over that and go back there and play, yeah, like that one? Or is it gonna be a fence type gate, you know what I mean?
It'll be an 8-foot fence, like, a 8-foot fence, probably not wood like that. City of Whitewater wanted wood for whatever reason.
Can I just clarify? I think this is not the gate that you're referring to, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's,
no, that's just the gate to the property. The gates for back there, actually, you can see, there, yeah, there you go, that's, no, that's a double gate right there that opens up. And then there's another double gate on the other side where the tow truck is.
would
So,
you have a gate like that back there or the one in the front?
no, it would be like, you would not be able to,
See anything back
No.
there?
while the police department has said that they would like a gate that can be seen through so that if they pull up there, they can see through the gate. I guess that's up to you guys and the police department. So getting back to that, somebody would be able to jump the gate. If somebody wanted to jump an 8-foot fence, they could. But we also, the area is well lit. We have motion sensing cameras. Like, we know when people are on our property before anybody else knows. I mean, my phone starts going off right away. If a cat walks through there, my phone goes off.
Meant the difference between that front one you
Oh,
had.
yeah. No, it would
and
not be like
the
the front
back.
one. No.
So Allison, if I could ask you, so your recommendation would be to have it come back to Plan Commission members after you get some more information? And you make up a list?
I think my recommendation tonight, and legal counsel's recommendation would be to have discussions tonight, about any questions, anything that anybody wants cleared up. If there are, conditions that we want to discuss tonight, we can. However, as Chris stated, it's a good idea to have everything in writing. And so if we come back, ideally, what I would like to do is have us come back to next month's meeting so that everything is written out in front of you. Any condition that anyone has discussed is down on paper, and we can go through some of those conditions. And if there is a proposed approval of the CUP, we can talk about the conditions that are listed. Of course, add conditions if needed or adjust conditions, but it's more solidified, written down on paper, than just kind of throwing things back and forth, left and right. We just want to get it right. And so having it down on paper at the following meeting would be ideal. Now, if the plan commission is requesting further draw ups or site plans, that's something they can request of the applicant. However, that's not required.
I would like to see that, yes. I mean, if we're gonna put something in there that, and that building is gonna remain the shape that it's in, I don't think anything should be in there. And I disagree that you're still gonna run a business out of there. There's not gonna be any people there. There's not gonna be a person working there for you. But if I come to pick my car up, there's gotta be somebody there.
Yeah, it would be
You know what I
same
mean?
as,
You
yeah, it's,
described a whitewater operation,
yeah,
and fully understand that. They come, they get it, they pay, boom, they're
Yeah.
on their way.
yeah.
So there's, you still gotta have sewer and water. Because there're gonna be people there.
Well, yeah, but all they're doing is they're literally picking up their car and they're leaving. So everything that we do, even in Whitewater, is by appointment. There's not somebody sitting at Whitewater all day long waiting for people to show up there. I mean, I'm a small operation. I'm a one-man show. I don't have multiple drivers and a ton of employees. I'm on the road towing cars. I'm not sitting there waiting for somebody to show up. Everything is booked by appointment in advance. I meet the people at the location. They pay the fee or give me the check from the insurance company. They load the vehicle and they leave, and I leave. I'm not sitting there. I have other places to be.
So, one thing to go back to the sewer and water. I mean, I'm a plumber and whatever, but people go to the bathroom at all different times. There's not just one set, 4:30 I'm gonna go, 9:30 I'm gonna go. You bring in the car, your guy gets out of his truck, he's gotta go to John. Well, I'm in a fenced in area back here. I just
It's just,
take my leak back here and, I think if you're doing anything there, you have to have sewer and water before you can do anything. But that's my opinion.
and I'd like to see a drawing of somewhat, if it's gonna stay the way it is, then, I don't care whether it's a towing company or a bakery. It's just not, no.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but realistically, if you put a nice looking fence across the front of that property with a nice sliding gate, and the front of the property is concrete or blacktop, and you do some landscaping, it's going to change the whole feel of that property right from the get-go.
Then draw it up and show it to us.
Okay.
So Allison, you've heard the comments from Plan Commission members. If you could put those in the aspects of your recommendations?
If I could just ask one question. In terms of actually accessing the site, you heard conversations earlier about and you yourself was talking about, this is one of the busiest streets in the city. So how do you plan on accessing the property? Will you always be pulling in, head first, or are you going to have to try to back in, or what?
A lot of it is dependent on what time of day it is that we're coming in there. If it's busy rush hour time, your easiest thing is going to be to pull in, turn around, and back through the gate. So my plan would be to put the gate where the blacktop is on the top part of the building there, and have it would be the front. But I'm saying on this picture, it would be where the white roof is. It would be the top part of the building. Yeah. So put a sliding gate across the front of the building. If we pull in there and then back around the building, that would be the easiest thing. I mean, if we're going in there at night, it would be easier to just back in right away.
Does your truck have the ding, 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 ding,
No.
ding as you back up?
No, and the trucks have switches in them that you can shut that off anyway, so.
So just for clarification, are you saying that there could potentially be some periods of time where you might be backing the truck up on South Lincoln Street, potentially?
I mean, if it's the middle of the night and nobody's out there, I back in Whitewater all the time. I mean, in the middle of the night, nobody's out there, it's the easiest thing to do.
Anything else you guys want Allison to hear, commission members?
We did talk about that the last month, that whole lot being blacktop or cement. Because if you get oil leaks in the gravel and then it rains, it washes it off, and then you got the DNR down here every day checking on you. I've been through that because I spent 30 years with Man Brothers, and that was all in gravel. I know what we went through, paying thousands and thousands of dollars every month just to have the things monitored. So
I think in the last conditions, it was blacktop, wasn't it?
It was asked for, Tom, you asked what? for
Yeah, I asked
surface,
Al.
You did, yeah. So
Allison
that,
said blacktop.
that'd
we
have
had
to
put
be in there
there.
for sure, I think. So
But your sewer and water'd have to go in before your blacktop.
Well, that's what I'm
because
saying. That's what I'm saying. I mean, that's why I'm asking for up to 2 years to do that.
Blacktop and,
I mean, you can't put blacktop down then dig it all up.
No.
So Allison, was there anything else you want to add? Or do you hear all the recommendations?
Yes, I do. Thank you. There's nothing else that I would like to add at this time. I guess, does anybody else have any questions that they want answered by the applicant? That would be my only question.
Commission members?
Can I propose something?
You can, yeah.
We have to come back here again in 2 weeks anyway, right?
Would it be 2 weeks, Allison, or next month you looking at?
We don't have anything for either of the meetings at this point. We may be having a plan commission meeting on the 16th, but it is to be determined. Because it does not require a public hearing notice, I am fine coming back on the 16th.
As long as you have the information and the applicant, as Ken stated, he'd like a drawing and stuff like that, so.
So-
Can you do that within the 2 weeks is the first question.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly it's not going to be like an architectural drawing. I mean, that's
At least propose what you're gonna
Yeah.
use for material and
Yeah.
things like that. Cause we've had that before on buildings where we've asked to show us, what are you gonna be using?
Sure. Yeah, and like I said, anybody on this board, feel free to call City of Whitewater zoning. Feel free to call City of Whitewater Police Department. I mean, any one of them will tell you how we work with the city over there. I mean, if I tell you I'm going to do something, they're not calling me, harping on me, did you do this? It's done when I say it's going to be done, and my facility is clean and it looks nice. I mean, it's come leaps and bounds since I bought it, so I don't know why this facility would be any different. I mean, we run a professional operation, we like to look good, and this one is not going to be any different.
Okay, well, thank you, Lee, for your time, and then, Allison should be working with you on getting it all set. And commission members, you guys
Chris?
are fine with that?
Chris and Ward, do you have anything else to add that I missed?
No, I don't. I've got a nice list here of things that we discussed.
Okay.
Well, thank you all for your time.
Yep, thank you.
thank you.
So moving on to general discussion items. Any updates? Allison, do you have anything?
I don't believe I have any updates at this time. We're still working with Geronomy. We have a meeting next week to discuss some further plans that they submitted. So they should be moving along as soon as we get some items hashed out at a staff level. We have a lot of completed projects. The Anytime Fitness project is coming along pretty well, and they have just applied for their signage. We have the ETZ. I don't know if Adam can touch on that further, but that's the only item that may potentially be coming to the Plan Commission meeting in addition to this on the 16th. It's kind of up in the air.
You want to touch on that, Adam, or do you want to
Yeah,
just?
just real quickly, as Nelson said, the reason why we might need a planning commission meeting on the 16th is because we have to appoint the city's reps for the new ETZ board with Sugar Creek, and so I guess the question is, and this is looking at the email I got from Elaine, but are Dwayne, Tom, and Boardman, are you guys all living in the city limits right now?
Yes.
I can't remember if I think one planning commission might have moved outside the city, so I wasn't sure. But-
1945. Is
Okay.
it long enough?
That's good enough.
Okay, so if you're all three in the city limits, then I think we don't need a meeting then, based upon the email I got. So we should be good then. And just on an unrelated note, as far as Allison said, or Allison mentioned about Creekside, Creekside actually just closed on the property a couple days ago, so Eric is now a much wealthier man than he was probably a week ago, but so that the property's been sold, and moving forward, as Allison said, Creekside has requested to start some preliminary dirt moving, and that's kind of where we're trying to talk with Naomi, the city engineer, to see, that we're all on the same page, so.
Good.
But they're super eager to get going at this point.
Okay. So Plan Commission members, just keep an eye on your emails. There might be a meeting November 16th. Just keep an eye and see how that goes, so. Motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.